Hi everybody, Cheyenne with Chi Creative. I'm going to take you through a quick edit of this little guy right here. So, first thing, I'm going to locate my raw file, double click that. The default is going to bring me into the Photoshop here, and I can just make some really easy adjustments. So I'm going to pull up the exposure slightly. On my newborns, I always like to take down contrast a little bit, and bring up some highlights, maybe slightly. And temperature, I always love for my newborns to be warmer rather than cooler, so they don't look cold. And go ahead and I'll just open that image then. So from this window, obviously he's not completely centered, and I might actually tilt him. So I like to do that first. You can see that it's a square right now, but you can change that up here where your ratio is. And so I'm going to just do a clear. I always just go back to my move tool, back to my crop, and that just resets it. So from here, if you hold the shift key on a Mac, which is what I'm working on, you can drag it and it'll scale it to size. And then you can, as you turn it, it's going to go ahead and, that was my mistake, sorry. Don't crop. Okay. As you turn it, it's going to go ahead and keep it to scale, but it's going to obviously crop out it's going to crop it to that scale. So if you want it to be bigger and then you're just going to, fill it in, you can hold down the shift key and pull it open, and then center the image the way that you're kind of wanting it. So I'm going to show you a little bit more of an advanced edit today, because I kind of like the way that lands as far as a crop, where he's a little more crescent and sideways than he is, completely vertical. So once I get my crop down, I'm going to go ahead and actually I'm going to move him up slightly. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and push return on my Mac, and it's going to go ahead and crop that. So now I have all this white space in all my corners here, which I'll get to that here in a second of how to fill that in. But for the first thing I do on an edit is I want to scale it up to 100%. So I'm going to click on my magnifying glass here and just double click on him. Oop. Double click on the magnifying glass, sorry. And then this brings him to 100%, which is always a good, that's good to edit, 100% or even greater, so that you can see all these fine little details here that if this image were to get blown up onto a canvas, it would print. You would be able to see that. And obviously, I want to keep the integrity of the newborn, whether there's a birthmark or a little freckle. Definitely I don't want to remove that stuff. But when it comes to little skin flakes like this, I take them off because they're just temporary. They're not something that's on him every day in this location. So I'm just going to go through. I'm using my Band-Aid tool over here. And what this tool does is it basically samples pixels around where I'm trying to edit out, and then it'll sample back in that those pixels. So for example, it keeps the integrity of the skin is the main thing. This right here looks like a little bit of a birthmark, so I'm going to keep that. And I've seen this little guy since, and he doesn't have a birthmark there, so I might actually take it off. He was probably just pressed his head up against his arm for a little bit in the last pose. I like to go into the hair, and I even remove flakes out of there. And then hands are a big deal. Newborns always have little dry flakes on their hands and feet because they're so brand new, and it's dry in Colorado. So I like to go in and take the skin flakes out. Same thing that I've kind of been doing. If a edit, I'll show you this in 1 second here. If an edit doesn't, with this Band-Aid tool, if it's not copying correctly, here, let me see if I can, here's an example. So right here where the skin kind of comes off, you can make your, the Band-Aid tool bigger by pushing your bracket keys, your left and right bracket keys on a Mac, and it will go ahead and size that up for you. Now, if, say this little thing, if it doesn't take it out the first time, like there, it's not exactly clean, just keep going over it with the Band-Aid tool, and eventually it does fix that. So just kind of do some little skin smoothing here. I like to take out all the wispy little distractions, and that's just personal preference for me. All right, so that little guy is looking pretty good. I'm gonna just smooth that out right there. Okay, so now bigger picture here. I always kind of back out a little bit and take out any distraction. I'm kind of picky about that kind of stuff. I want the focus to be solely on the newborn, so that's really all I'm doing right now, is just taking out. Here's a little red spot. Not sure where that's coming from, so just take that out. Just kind of go all the way around. So down here we have some fuzz that has appeared in this wood. So for this, I'm going to use my stamp tool, which is right here, and this is an exact sampling. So it samples exactly what you tell it to. So if I hold down my Option key and I click on where I want it to sample, and then I pull it away, see how it pulls that in and over. So I can go ahead and fill that in. Now here's where it kind of gets interesting, because when I use my stamp tool, it just repeats. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4. That looks, fake. So I'm just gonna come in here with my Band-Aid tool and go over it. And this is what I mean by, obviously that's not working real well. So I'm gonna sample my stamp from a different area and just kind of go over those there again. So once that is looking better, go back to my Band-Aid tool. I switched between Band-Aid and stamp a lot in an edit. Those are like my two favorite tools when it comes to editing. So okay, I think that kind of covers taking out a lot of like the detail, the things that are distracting. I'm gonna get this little thing right here above his head too. I don't really like things right directly above my subject's head. So that leaves me with this. Now the fun part begins with the filling in of the flooring here. So I'll start with the smallest corner first. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to sample right here and then enlarge my brush with the bracket tool, the right bracket tool, and I'm just going to paint this part in because it's such a small area. So we got that going there. Now I'll take you over here. We'll do the same kind of thing. You want to make sure that it's lined up. I always like to use a larger brush that is I just right clicked on my mouse to pull this window up, and you can make it go really hard or really soft. When you're filling in and editing, it's important that you use the softer so that you don't get a hard line. I can show you an example of what that looks like with the hard line. So if I pull it up on hard and then I go ahead and I edit, you can tell that you can see exactly, what I did. Whereas if that was soft, it would blend it better. So I'm going to do Command Z to erase that part. Now, here's where I love my Band-Aid tool. I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to enlarge slightly. This is where I like it. So it's going to sample the wood. I'm going to fill in just the white part here with my Band-Aid tool. And it's going to go ahead and sample it, and then it's going to fill it in how it thinks it should go. Now I can come back in, make it smaller, and I can go over these lines that I don't want in there. And see how that just kind of gives it a nice blend, and it fills that in, and then you can come back in with the detail part. So then I would go back to my stamp tool and maybe sample maybe like right here, and just, I'm still on my hard brush. I gotta go back to my soft, and just kind of draw in a little line right there. And so that's how I like to fill in. So I use my Band-Aid tool. Again, I'll do it on this corner. I use my Band-Aid tool first, and then that will sample as best it can. And it got the floor slightly crooked, so I'm gonna come back in here, and I'm just gonna straighten that out. So we're almost done. Oop, what did I do? Okay, so now we're at the very last part. Now this is going to be the trickiest because the basket is right here, so it's going to be hard to use the Band-Aid tool for that part, because it's going to sample the basket, which I can show you that. So it's most likely going to pull in the basket. Oh, it didn't. Amazing. Okay, but it didn't do a very good job, obviously, of doing exactly what I wanted. But then again, I can come back in again with my stamp tool. I can sample that. I can pull that line through here, and then sample this and pull that across. Might have to, click it in a couple times. Get rid of that because it's repeated. And then for this portion, I think what I'll do is I'll actually sample like maybe right here. So I took it from this side of the photo, and I'm just gonna pull that line in there and maybe go up this way. Okay, and then I'm gonna blend it again with my Band-Aid tool. And really, when you're trying to fill in a space in a photo, it's just a trial and error. Just try things. Don't get discouraged if it doesn't work out the first time. Just keep kind of going over things again and again until you see, get the results that you like. So for me, it's getting closer. It's still not there yet. So I don't like how this is not lined up. So I'm gonna go ahead and put another one of these guys in here. Oh, and see where that ended? That's because my cursor is off the page. So I gotta resample that because it ran out of pixels to sample for that. Okay, I like that a little bit better there. I might pull in this light one here so it's not so run out of pixels again. So it's not so heavy on that side. All right, so I like that. Now what I might do on my crop is pull it in a little bit now that I have enough room here, and I'm not worried about cutting the corners anymore. So there. Now that's pretty much the summary of an edit, minus the effects that you can lay over top. So I'm gonna pause it now, and in the next video I'll go ahead and walk you through what I do as far as the overlay effects that I like to use. So thanks for watching the edit. You can make comments below and be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks.